All right, welcome to the lecture on digital painting. We're going to get started with just some of the basics. We're going to be using the brush tool and the mixer brush tool. And you'll see there are several options for the mixer brush tool, which we will get into. But before we start that, make sure that you have your layers set up as following. Duplicate your background layer and make 3 blank layers, 1 underpainting, 1 intermediate, and 1 detail. We will be making all of our big blocky shapes on this. Intermediate, we will start to add depth and perspective and pay more attention to light. And then we will add our final detail in the detail layer. Brush options, let's just go to the normal brush right now. We have size, which is the size of the brush, and hardness, which defines the edges. Very soft edges, very hard edges. I'm going to turn this layer off for just a second and show you what I mean. Let's just grab this brush, 100% hard. And then we will get this brush, which is 100% soft, and compare them. So you can see that one has very clearly defined edges and the other does not. Also, I am using a Wacom tablet, which is pressure sensitive, and I have my brush to set for pressure sensitivity to change the size and hardness, and a bunch of other very cool things that are located in this brush preset. If you go to shape dynamics for the brush, you can see that mine is set for pen pressure. If you are just using the mouse, no problem, you can turn it off. You may find that using a Wacom is you have a little more control, but if that's not something you have and you just have a mouse, then you're good to go by leaving that right there. So there are other and different brush tips. Let's take a look at a couple of them and the way that they look. And you'll notice this little preview up here because this is one of the bristle brushes that works very much like a traditional brush. This is also a bristle brush. And then we have some custom brushes down here and some boxes. All right, so that is what's in store. Let's select all of that and hit delete. All right, back to the brush. We have the mode here. I say leave this mode on normal. If you want to play with different layer blending modes, I would do it in the layers as opposed to doing it over here. It can get a little confusing over here, and sometimes I find I forget to reset it and then get stuck. You have the opacity of the brush. This little button has to do with using the Wacom. So let me grab a brush and show you an example of that. So if I have very little pressure, it is not as opaque as if I have a great deal of pressure. So you can use this button here if you have the Wacom. I'm going to go back in my history. And this button here has to do with the Wacom tablet settings also. Okay, let's review what this top does. Again, these work if you are using the Wacom. This always uses pressure for opacity if you are using a Wacom tablet. This controls the flow, or the amount of paint that's on the brush. And we'll talk more about how you can build up paint. It's similar to opacity, the flow option, but a lower number will allow you to build up to 100%. This option here is enabling airbrush style buildup effects. And this one here I also use when I'm using my Wacom. Always use pressure for size. When off, brush presets controls it. So let's click that. I'm going to click off of this, clear that layer, and you can see the brush gets much larger as I push down, and then it's much smaller when I'm not applying any pressure. So that's a really quick introduction to what's up here. We have the size and the hardness. We have our brush presets, which we will get into, and are a lot of fun. You can do a lot of different things. We have the opacity of the brush. We have the enable pen pressure to control the flow of the ink. You have the pen pressure to change the opacity. You have the flow, the airbrush effect, and this for the Wacom tablet that will affect the pressure. Airbrush and opacity. Okay, so that is our basic brush setup. What I'm going to do is turn my other layers back on and get ready to introduce you to the mixer brush and block some information out.